It wasn't a howl. It was a perfect, chilling imitation of my best friend's voice, calling my name from the darkness. And that's when I knew the stories were a warning, not a legend. Nightbound Bloodline presents 3 True Skinwalker Stories. We went hunting. I was the lone survivor. The deep, ancestral dread of the Skinwalker is one of the most potent and feared legends to emerge from the American Southwest. To the Navajo, they are the Yinaldlishii, the ones who walk on all fours. Shapeshifters, sorcerers, beings of immense, malevolent power. What you are about to hear are not campfire tales. They are first-person accounts from individuals who, whether out of curiosity or arrogance, went looking for the truth. They sought out the shadows, and the shadows looked back. Their testimonies, sent to us with a plea for anonymity, have been verified to the best of our ability. The events you will hear changed them forever. Story 1. The Hunter. My name is Mark. I'm 54 years old. I've been a hunting guide in the Four Corners region for 30 years. I know these canyons and mesas better than I know the lines on my own hands. I've tracked mountain lions, faced down a startled bear, and spent more nights under the stars than I can count. I'm not a superstitious man. I deal in wind, scent, and spoor. I believed a skinwalker was just a story to keep kids from wandering off after dark. A spook story. I don't believe that anymore. It was last November. The air was crisp, thin, the kind of cold that seeps right into your bones. I was out near an area the locals avoid, a place called Coyote Pass. I wasn't hunting for sport. A wealthy client had paid a fortune for me to guide him to a trophy elk. The sun was dipping below the canyon rim, painting the sandstone in shades of blood orange and deep purple. The world got quiet, the way it does when day gives way to night. But this quiet, it was different. It was a thick, heavy silence. Absent. No crickets. No rustle of rodents in the scrub oak. Nothing. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath. My client, a loud guy from the city, was getting jumpy. He kept swiveling his head, gripping his rifle too tight. I chalked it up to him being a flatlander. But then I felt it. That prickle on the back of your neck. That deep, animal instinct that screams you're being watched. I stopped, held up a hand for silence. And that's when we heard it. A sound that shouldn't have been there. It was a skittering, like long, brittle fingernails on dry rock. It came from the ridge above us. Then it would come from our left, 50 yards away. Then from directly behind us. It was moving. Fast. Impossibly fast. And then came the smell. A wave of it, carried on the wind. It was the smell of old death, wet fur left to rot in the sun, a sweet, putrid stench that made your stomach clench. My client raised his rifle, his hands shaking so bad the scope was wobbling. "What is that?" he hissed. I followed his gaze. Down in the wash below us, standing in the deep shadows of a juniper tree, was a figure. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, and unnaturally thin. Its legs were backwards, bending the wrong way at the knee. It was covered in a patchy, mangy fur that was pale, almost gray in the fading light. But its head, God, its head was wrong. It was too long, the snout too pointed, like a wolf that had been stretched out on a rack. And its eyes, they weren't animal eyes. They were a sickly, intelligent yellow, and they held a malice I have never seen in any creature. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a man. It was a perversion of both. It took a step forward, and its movement was all wrong. It wasn't a walk. It was a loping, disjointed glide, like it was learning how to use its limbs. My client panicked. He didn't even aim, just fired a shot into the air. The crack of the rifle echoed through the canyon, and it tilted its head, and then it let out a sound. It wasn't a growl. It was a dry, rattling cough that sounded exactly like an old man laughing. A mocking, horrible sound. It started to follow us. We'd run, our boots slipping on the loose scree. And we'd look back, and it would be there, just standing, watching. Then it would be ahead of us, perched on a rock we'd just passed. It was hurting us, playing with us. My client was sobbing, hyperventilating. I was frozen solid with a fear I didn't know a man could feel. I don't know what came over me, but I remembered an old story. You don't look at them. You don't acknowledge them. I grabbed my client, forced his head down, and I stared at my boots. Don't look at it, I whispered, my voice cracking. Just run. Don't look back. We ran. We ran until our lungs burned. I heard a scream from my client, a short, wet gurgle that was cut off. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I made it to my truck as the blood moon rose. I never saw the client again. The search and rescue found his rifle. The strap snapped clean through. They found my footprints. They found his. And they found a third set of tracks. They were wolf tracks, but they were the size of a dinner plate, and they were interspersed with long, deep gouges in the earth, like something walking on two legs and dragging its claws. I sold my business. I haven't set foot in the backcountry since. Some truths are just too heavy to live with. A harrowing account from a man who trusted the land he walked on, only to find it had been hiding an ancient, walking nightmare. But the horror does not end in the remote wilderness. Sometimes it follows you home. Story 2. The Researcher. My name is Dr. Lena Petrova. I'm a cultural anthropologist. My life's work was studying the migration of folklore, specifically how similar monster myths appear in disparate cultures. I was a skeptic, a rationalist. If I couldn't measure it, quantify it, or cite it in a peer-reviewed journal, it didn't exist. My colleagues and I, we thought we were so clever. We went to the Navajo Nation not to prove skinwalkers were real, but to deconstruct the phenomenon, to interview elders, to understand the societal function of the fear. We thought we were observers. We were wrong. We were specimens. There were 4 of us. Me, my 2 graduate assistants, Ben and Chloe, and a local guide named Thomas who was deeply uncomfortable with our line of questioning. We were staying in a rented ranch house on the edge of the vast, empty res. The first 2 days were productive. We gathered stories, recorded interviews. But on the 3rd night, the atmosphere shifted. Thomas left abruptly, refusing to give a reason, his face ashen. That night, the silence outside the house was absolute. It was a void. No coyotes, no wind. Just this profound, suffocating stillness. Ben, ever the provocateur, decided it would be a good idea to try and attract something. He said it as a joke. He went outside and whistled into the darkness. A stupid, childish dare. For a moment, nothing. Then, an answer. A perfect mimic of his whistle came back from the treeline, but it was slightly off. The pitch was wrong, flatter, and it had a wet, guttural quality to it, like it was made by a throat not meant for whistling. We all fell silent. Chloe laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. It's an echo, she said. But the sound hadn't come from the canyon. It had come from the dense cluster of pines 50 yards to our left. Then we heard the footsteps on the porch. Slow, heavy. Drag step. Drag step. It sounded like something heavy was being pulled. We froze, staring at the front door. The handle jiggled. Not a frantic rattle, but a slow, deliberate testing, like it was learning the mechanism. Ben, fool that he was, crept to the window and peeled back the curtain a fraction. I saw his face drain of all color. His eyes went wide with a terror so pure it was almost childlike. He stumbled back, pointing, but no words would come out. I looked. There, pressed against the glass, was a face. It was vaguely human, but the features were smeared. The skin was a patchwork of textures, parts of it dark and leathery, parts pale and slick. Its mouth was stretched into a rictus grin far too wide for its head, and its eyes, they were black. Not dark brown, black, like obsidian, and they reflected the lamplight with a flat, insectoid shine. It was wearing what looked like tattered, filthy rags, and through a tear, I could see its torso was crisscrossed with scars and caked with something dark. It tilted its head, and the movement was jerky, unnatural. It was studying us. It began to tap on the window. A slow, rhythmic tap, tap, tap with one long, dirty fingernail. Then it started to speak. It used Chloe's voice first. "Let me in, guys. It's cold out here." It was perfect. The exact cadence, the slight lisp she had. Chloe screamed. Then it used Ben's voice, mocking him. It was just a joke. "Come on, open the door." It knew our names. It knew our voices. For hours, it circled the house. We'd hear it scraping its claws along the siding. It would pound on the walls, a sudden, thunderous boom that made the whole structure shake. And then it would be silent, only to start whispering from right outside a different window. It was playing with us, breaking us down. We huddled in the center of the living room, clutching each other, sobbing. Our rationality was a shield, and it shattered it completely. When the sun finally rose, the sound stopped. We waited another hour, paralyzed, before we dared to look outside. There were no footprints. Nothing. Just a deep, visceral sense of violation. We packed our things in a frantic, silent hurry and fled. We agreed never to speak of it, to bury the experience in academic detachment. But Ben, he couldn't. He started drinking. He dropped out of the program. Last I heard, he was in an institution. He keeps telling the doctors that something is watching him from the corners of his room, mimicking his mother's voice. I left anthropology. I work in a museum now, cataloging ancient, dead things. It feels safer. I know now that some folklore isn't a story about a monster. It is the monster, and our curiosity is its dinner bell. A chilling reminder that intellectual curiosity is no armor against a primal evil. But the final story is perhaps the most personal, the most devastating of all. It is a story of a bond broken and a trust betrayed by the thing wearing a loved one's face. Story 3. The Brother. My name is Jake. I was 17. My brother, Leo, was 19. He was my best friend. We did everything together. We were just stupid kids. We'd grown up on the res, heard the stories our whole lives. Our grandma would warn us, her voice so serious. Don't go out after dark. Don't answer the door if you hear your name. Don't whistle at night. We thought it was just her being superstitious. We thought it was all a game. We decided we were going to be the ones to get proof. We went hunting for it. We were so stupid. It was the night of the blood moon. The air was thick and heavy, and the world was bathed in this sick, reddish light. We told our mom we were camping in the backyard, but we snuck out. We took my dad's old camcorder, a hunting knife we didn't know how to use, and a bravery made entirely of ignorance. We hiked out to the old dumping ground at the edge of the mesa, a place everyone avoided, a place of rusted cars and broken things. The perfect place, we thought, for something broken to live. The silence out there was different from any quiet I'd ever known. It was a hungry silence. Leo, he was trying to be brave. He started whooping, yelling into the darkness. "Come on out. We're not scared of you." I was filming him, laughing, but my laugh was tight, nervous. That's when we heard the first rock. It hit the shell of an old washing machine with a sharp clang. We spun around. Nothing. Then another, from a different direction. Clang. Then another. It was like we were being surrounded by an invisible thrower. The air grew cold, a sudden, biting chill that made the hairs on my arms stand up. And then came the smell, like rotten meat and dry, dusty earth. Leo stopped yelling. His bravado just evaporated. "We should go," he whispered. And that's when we heard it. A voice. It was our grandma's voice. It came from the darkness behind a wrecked car. "Jake? Leo? I'm lost. Help me." My blood ran cold. It was her. Every inflection, the slight crack in her tone. Perfect. Leo took a step forward. "Grandma." The thing that stepped out from behind the car was not our grandmother. It was tall and hunched, its spine a twisted curve. It was naked, its skin pale and covered in grime, stretched taut over a frame that was all sharp angles and knobby joints. Its limbs were too long, its fingers ending in claws that scraped against the hard-packed earth. But its face was the worst part. It was still shifting. For a second, it had our grandmother's kind eyes, her wrinkled mouth. Then the skin seemed to melt, the features sliding, rearranging, until it settled on a horrible hybrid. It had Leo's nose, my jawline, but the eyes were pure black, bottomless pits, and the mouth was full of yellow, needle-like teeth. It was wearing pieces of us. It spoke again, and this time its voice was a horrible blend of ours. "Stay with me." It lunged, not at me, at Leo. It was impossibly fast, a blur of pallid skin and sharp angles. It didn't run, it scuttled spider-like. Leo screamed and turned to run, but it was on him in a second. I stood there, frozen, the camcorder still recording, a silent, useless witness. It didn't bite him or slash him. It clung to his back, its long limbs wrapping around his torso, its face pressed against the side of his head. Leo was thrashing, screaming, "Get it off! Get it off me!" And then he stopped. His body went rigid. He turned his head and looked at me. But it wasn't Leo looking out of his eyes. It was that thing. It was inside him. It smiled my brother's smile, a cruel, alien expression. "Run, little brother," it said with Leo's voice. I ran. I left my brother there. I ran and I didn't look back. I heard him. It, laughing behind me, a sound that was half Leo, half something else entirely. I made it home, babbling, hysterical. The police found the camcorder. The footage, it's what I described. They found Leo wandering the mesa 3 days later. He was alive. He was physically fine. But he's not my brother. Not anymore. He sits in his room and stares at the wall. Sometimes he looks at me, and his eyes are just empty. And sometimes, when he thinks no one is looking, I see a flicker of that cruel, intelligent darkness in them. He's a shell. They say he has trauma-induced psychosis. I know the truth. They didn't find a body in the junkyard that night. They found a new skin. I went hunting for a skinwalker, and it followed me home. It sleeps in the room next to mine. A bond shattered. A family broken. A home forever defiled. 3 stories. 3 lives irrevocably scarred by the same ancient, shape-shifting horror. The accounts of Mark, Lena, and Jake share terrifying common threads. The unnatural silence that precedes the encounter. The foul, physical stench of decay. The intelligent, mocking mimicry of human voice. And most of all, the profound, psychological violation, the theft of safety, of rationality, of a loved one's very identity. These are not random monster attacks. They are targeted, personal, and deeply cruel. They remind us that there are places where the old world, a world of spirit and monster, has not yet relinquished its hold. It reminds us that some lines of inquiry should never be crossed. If you have a story of the unexplained, a brush with the shadows that linger at the edge of your vision, we invite you to share it with us. The truth is out there, waiting in the darkness. Until we meet again, like and subscribe, and share your own encounters below. This has been Nightbound Bloodline. Thank you for listening. Until next time, sleep with one eye open.